Hello, welcome to Malt Box, the non-chill filtered whisky blog. I'm Andy and this is whisky review number 64. What I have for you today is a Highland single malt Scotch whisky from the Nevis distillery, and that comes in the form of their entry level 10-year-old. There's the box and here is the bottle. So, just to get this out of the way, this is the new bottle, the new shape bottle. However, I have it on very good authority that the contents is exactly the same as it was in the old one. So, Nevis. Oh, what a noise. Now, Nevis Distillery is situated in Fort William. Extremely close proximity to Nevis itself, hence the name. Now, it was founded in the late 1800s. It's quite an overlooked distillery, in part because there aren't many official bottlings. The 10-year-old is by far their most produced, sold, and basically it's the only one you'll really see on a shelf. You can find a few official bottlings that are slightly different now, however, they are quite expensive. The distillery itself is owned by Nikka, the Japanese whisky company, or Japanese drinks company, should we say, because they do have the finger in quite a few pies. So it's under Japanese ownership. The distillery itself has a capacity of around 1.5 to 2 million litres a year. More recently, they have been pushing that up. So, I think in 2014-15 they produced 1.5 million litres of spirit due to demand. So that's actually higher than it usually is for them. The 10-year-old, as I say, is their entry-level bottling. It is bottled at 46%, which is a great start. Fantastic start. Now, I can't remember off the top of my head if it is chill filtered or whether it's got natural colour. I believe it's natural colour. I believe it is. I'm just going to have a quick look on the box just to make sure, because I can't remember. Nope, no mention whatsoever. Excellent. Right, okay. See if they just put it on the bottle or the label, or I'd rather know. I can't see mention in German either that it's mit Farb stuff or with colour. So, but I don't know is the honest answer. I don't know if it's chill filtered. I don't know if it's natural colour. If you do know, please feel free to comment. I will be happy to find that out. That would be very, very helpful indeed. So, in terms of colour in the glass, it's quite light. It is quite light, which suggests potentially it could be natural colour. It's not too dark, and I'm sure the old 10-year-old used to be a bit darker than that. I'm sure it did. But the chap in Royal Mile Whiskies, where I purchased this, did assure me it was the same stuff in this bottle that was in the old one. So, in terms of the bottle itself, as I say, this is the new shape. You can still buy the old bottle. However, this is the one that you're going to be seeing going forwards. Now, to be honest with you, I prefer the look of this one. I do like the way this looks. The old one was basically, if you've not already seen it, was just your standard. It's a bit like this, really. A bit like this Whiskey Broker bottle. It was just like that, and it just had Nevis on it. It actually looks. I don't want to say it looked cheap, but it did. It didn't look great. It looked very traditional, I think we should say. That's the best way to say it. Traditional. Sticking to the principles. So now I've had a bit of a packaging revamp, and they've gone for this, which to be fair to it, aesthetically does look a lot nicer. So going down the glass there's some decent legs on there. On the nose, you can really tell straight away, even if you didn't know what you were drinking, you would know within seconds that this is certainly a Highland malt whisky. You've got honey, you've got heather, you've got a little bit of smoke in there as well. You've got kind of a coastal element to it as well. Maybe not so much as your Pultneys or your Obans, for example, but there is a little bit of a wisp in there. Something quite vegetal, it's sweet, it's sultry, it's nice oily nose to it as well. Think orange oil. There's also a little bit of sugar on there. It's a really, really nice, honest, straightforward nose. And at the same time, it is quite musty, but it's almost as if it's supposed to be, because it goes really, really well alongside those other flavours. Interestingly, there's quite a few different casks that this is actually matured in. It's matured in a mixture of generic refills, so it could be hogsheads, refill hoggies, and it's also matured in first fill bourbon and first fill sherry. I don't know what type of first fill sherry, I could not tell you, it took quite a while to find that out in itself. There's not much about it online, but I did happen to find a reference to it in the Whisky Opus as to what this is matured in. Now, I say there aren't many other official bottlings. From the top of my head, there's a 25-year-old, or at least there used to be a 25-year-old. They also have recently been releasing, every so often, just like a random 19-year-old or 21-year-old or something like that. And I think, from memory, that is probably stock that they've sort of just come across and just put it together and just sack it, get it out the door. But the price is a massive hike on this. For example, I purchased this whisky in Royal Mile Whiskies, bearing in mind the overheads that a retail shop has. And I do recommend, if you are in Edinburgh, do visit, as well as Cadden Heads, visit Royal Mile Whiskies. The staff in there are really helpful and the selection is really good. I purchased this for £32.95, which gives you a good idea as to what you should be looking for it. You can buy it online as well. I've seen the Whisky Exchange have the older bottle version for about 40 quid. Master of Malt have this for around the same price. I picked this up for, it's about 34, 35. Going back to it there, as well as the notes I've already mentioned, I have mentioned orange oil, but there's also a little bit of lemon zest in there. You've also got a bit of leather potentially, like a leather briefcase or leather gloves, or, well, basically anything made of leather. It doesn't have to be gloves or a briefcase, could be a coat, could be a hat, who knows. Could be shoes. Old wardrobe. And lots of toffee. Thick, fresh, sticky toffee that will make your teeth stick together. Onto the palate now. Again, really lovely toffee, honey, a little bit of whisper smoke in there as well, just giving it a nice little bit of depth. You've got, wow, I totally turned just towards the finish there. Again, it's sweet, but now you're talking boiled sweets, you're talking confectionery. Think, maybe Worth's Originals. I didn't want to say Worth's Originals, but I think I will. There's also a little bit of fruitiness in there, a real nice red berry fruit kind of thing going on. That little bit of smoke in there, again. And going in towards the finish, it gets sweeter and sweeter, like a fruit compote. That sounds really snobby, doesn't it? I only know what it is because I bought a yoghurt from Pret a Manger. I can show you. Jam, let's just say jam. Let's take back the fruit compote, it's jam. That's more like it. Finish really long, really warming, very pleasing. It's a very, very good example, I think, of an approachable, traditional Highland style whisky. Now, do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to try it one more time, and then I'm going to put a tiny little bit of water in it, and then we'll see what that does, because I've never tried this with water. So it'll be a first for you and me. Yeah, I'm not getting much more on the nose. Yeah. The palate is dominated by those sweet flavours. However, they are not overpowering, they are not sickly. They tie in very well with one another. You've got a kind of herbal quality in there as well, alongside that little wisp of smoke. Slight woodiness to it. Again, going into the palate, I've mentioned the jam / compote, depending on, you know, where you want to stand with that. I'm also getting sort of like a fruit yogurt thing, kind of thing like cherry yogurt maybe. And whiskey, definitely whiskey, which is always a good sign. So, bearing in mind I've only got that much left, it's 46%, I've put 1 teaspoon in it, we'll see what that does to it. As I say, retailing for, well, I'll pick this up for £32.95, it's call it 33 quid. You'll be able to get it for between, I'd say, 30 and realistically 35. And I think I've already mentioned, you know, Master and Malt have it for that. I'm not sure on the Whisky Exchange, however, they do have the older version for 37 something, or 38. So if you're that way inclined, buy the older one, maybe compare it to this, who knows. I did have an old, well, I had a sample actually of the old 10-year-old. I didn't have a full bottle, and from memory, the old 10-year-old looked darker, but don't quote me on that. I've had many whiskies between then and now. So I could just be wrong, but there is that nice sort of light, I was going to say yellow colour. I mean, in previous reviews I have given whiskies ridiculous names, you know, in terms of the colour, and called them varying shades of urine, and that's exactly what it is. That's pretty much the first one of the morning. There you go. So we've given it a couple of minutes to open up. Let's see what we've got on the nose now. Interestingly, the lemon becomes more prevalent, that lemon zest. It's become, at the same time, a little bit mustier. I know I mentioned that a little bit earlier on, saying it actually worked quite well. Now I'm not so sure. Already with the water, I regret putting it in there. I do prefer it straight away as it is in its natural form. And it is good to see that it's been bottled at 46%. It's particularly at this price point. It's a very, very affordable and accessible Highland whisky. If you think how much you pay for a Dalmore 12, for example, that's chill filtered, it's pumped full of colour, you know, I've tried Dalmores in their natural state and independent bottlings, and they far surpass the lower end of the official bottlings, in my humble opinion. And I think for what you're getting on this already, 32, 33 quid, it's a steal. It is a steal. You've still got a little bit of toffee on there on the nose. I think as well I'm now picking up sawdust, which I did get a little glimpse of before I put the water in. And then it sort of goes into nondescript sweetness there on the palate. Get a bit of air in there. Yeah, it's pleasant. I'll give it that. It is pleasant. You get your toffee still in there. You still got your Words Originals. You've still got that kind of like herbal quality to it. And I'm finding it very hard to describe what it's done to it. It's kind of flattened it, if you know what I mean. It's taken a lot of the depth, a lot of character. The texture prior to the water was a really nice sort of thick texture. Now it's thinned down quite a lot. Still pleasant enough in terms of the texture of it. The finish has been affected quite a lot. There's not so much flavour to it. It is just the heat that's still present, and it is actually, if anything, I find the finish a little bit hotter with water, which is quite strange. So overall, I think I would safely say that I prefer that in its natural state at 46%. So, onto the scores. Ben Nevis 10-year-old. I'm going to give this whisky an 84 out of 100. I think it's really well deserving of that. It's a great little bang for your buck whisky. One definitely to have on the shelf, particularly at this sort of price point. And let's be honest, I mean, you're not going to try Ben Nevis very often. I think the 10-year-old is a really good representation of what they can produce there. It's easily accessible. And yeah, it's really, really good. Down to earth dram, I'd say. Very down to earth. Thanks very much for watching. See you soon.